What's up, freak bitches? Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. I've been avoiding this story because I didn't quite know how to approach it because there just wasn't a whole lot of information that had come out until the last probably 12 hours or so. A couple of days ago, a police officer in Fort Worth named Aaron Dean, a 34-year-old officer, went to a house on a wellness call. A neighbor had seen the doors to this house wide open, lights on, and most logical people would think that there was probably some nefarious shit going on. Now, the officer doesn't announce himself. Him and his partner just kind of go looking around. And as he's looking around, he sees this young lady, Atatania Jefferson, a 28-year-old girl, through the window. And she has heard something outside the house who she suspects to be a prowler. So she reaches for a gun that she legally owns. And of course, they end up seeing each other through the window and bad things happen. Now, I think people are overlooking some things about this. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to the dailymail.com. They posted an article with a few tidbits about this. Dallas Fort Worth police released an arrest warrant for Aaron Dean, 34, on Tuesday. He was charged with the murder of 28-year-old Atatania Jefferson. Dean was dispatched to Jefferson's home around 2:30 a.m. Saturday after a neighbor reported that her front door was open. Jefferson was playing video games with her 8-year-old nephew when they heard a noise outside. She got up to investigate, assuming it was a prowler. I'm kind of wondering why an 8-year-old is up at 2:30 in the morning unless they're sick, but whatever. The warrant quoted the nephew as saying his aunt had picked up a handgun and was pointing it out the window when she was shot by Dean. That's pretty important. I'll get to that in a second. Body cam footage showed Dean, who did not identify himself as police, I'll get to that in just a second, shining a flashlight into the home as Jefferson approached the bedroom window. He shouted at her to show her hands and fired the fatal shot a split second later. I'm going to get into that little tidbit in just a second. The video indicated that he could not have seen the gun in her hand before firing. That's bullshit. And this is where I'm going to start to break down a little bit of this. Now, the image you see right now is the officer in question, Aaron Dean, 34. On the left, the picture on the right is of this young lady, Atatania Jefferson, 28. Now, you can clearly hear, and I'll show you a picture of the body cam footage. This is about the time that the shot rings out and this poor girl is killed. But he yells 3 commands in the last couple seconds of this video. Show me your hands. He yells something else that I think maybe it says, show me your hands again. I'm not sure. It's been a couple of days since I watched the video. And then he starts to say, drop it, or drop something. He clearly says the word drop, and then as he's finishing up that command is when he fires the shot. Clearly, he saw something in her hand that he thought was a threat. I tweeted this to Lookner when he was going over it. Go check out Lookner on Agenda Free TV. I tweeted this to Steve Lookner and said, he clearly says, drop it, or drop the gun, or drop something right at the end of the video when it cuts out as he fires the fatal shot. And he kind of glossed over it. I think that's pretty important because I think when you get to the trial, it's going to show that this guy was not necessarily there to shoot somebody. He saw a threat. And as a police officer, if you see someone with a gun, you're not reaching for your fucking taser. You're not going to ask them to, oh, please don't shoot. No, you have to draw your weapon because that's what police officers are trying to do. Now, another thing I don't quite understand is, and I'm gonna put the blame totally on the cop here. He didn't identify himself. I don't understand why you would walk up there and knock on the door first and say, "Hey, this is the Dallas Fort Worth Police. Is everybody in here okay?" Because then this girl probably would have walked out and said, "Oh yeah, I just forgot to close the door." And this girl's still alive. This guy's not going to face trial for murder, and we've saved ourselves a lot of embarrassment and one young dead girl. I don't know why he didn't do that. That seems to me just to be a stupid, horrible mistake. And that's why he's going to end up taking the pinch for this, because he didn't do that one simple thing. Now, I know some people out there are saying, well, if the house is getting robbed, then maybe you don't want to announce yourself. Well, bottom line is you're going to announce yourself in the next few seconds anyway, whether you catch this guy trying to stuff jewelry and electronics into a fucking bag, or whether it's just some lady who forgot to close her door and she's playing video games with her fucking nephew. So he really should have announced himself. Now, the warrant does say that the nephew said that his aunt picked up a gun and was pointing it out the window when she saw Dean. Dean did see a weapon pointed in his general direction. Yeah. Sorry, his reaction is going to be to draw. Now, you could say that he was a little quick on the trigger, but if somebody's pointing a gun at you and you have a gun, bullets are going to fly. A gunfight's going to happen. That's the way that goes. He shouted to her to show her hands and fired the fatal shot a split second later. That's not entirely true. He actually yelled a couple of different commands. You guys can go find the video. The body cam video is out there on the internet somewhere. I don't want to show it because I'm not a big enough channel to go fighting YouTube over copyright shit, so I'm just not going to show it. The video indicated that he could not have seen the gun in her hand before firing. Again, I think that's absolute bullshit. He says, drop it, or drop something, right at the end of the video as he's firing the shot. He saw something in her hand that he perceived as a threat, and we now know, it's been released publicly through media outlets, that she did have a weapon in her hand pointed at the window. At a press conference shortly before the warrant was made public, Police Chief Ed Krause stated that there was absolutely no excuse for the officer's actions. Well, somebody had a gun pointed at him. I think he's playing to the media a little bit on this by saying there's no excuse for the officer's actions. Somebody was pointing a gun out of the window that he was looking in. Somebody was pointing a gun in his direction. Sorry, that's enough of an excuse for me. I really am a little pissed at acting police chief Ed Krause over saying that. You're kind of throwing your own guy and your department under the bus for that shit. That's bad. That's just bad optics. He said Jefferson behaved as any Texas homeowner would have if they thought someone was stalking around their home. I agree. I mean, yeah, you agree with any homeowner, period, not just in Texas. He insisted that it was not indicative of the work officers do every day. Of course it's not. I mean, somebody was pointing a gun at a police officer. That's all you really need to know about how this thing got out of hand so quickly. Dean resigned Monday before his arrest and was released on $200,000 bond. He may have resigned, but he was actually terminated in official paperwork with, essentially the way it was worded was like dishonorable discharge. He was dishonorably discharged from the police department. So I know the family of this girl is pissed off that he was allowed to resign. The bottom line is it doesn't really matter much in this case because he's kind of fucked anyway. He's going to end up doing time for this. His career in law enforcement is over. If he ever wears a uniform that even slightly resembles that of a police officer again, it's going to be as a security guard at a bowling alley. Jefferson's family said they were relieved by Dean's arrest, which, whatever, they should be. He did something wrong. He's going to get arrested. That's the way that goes. But insisted that the city of Fort Worth has much to do to reform a brutal culture of policing. That's bullshit. Look, I understand that her family is distraught. I understand that there's a lot of emotion going on right now. But you can't say that because there was a very unfortunate misunderstanding in which a girl who legally owns a firearm points a gun out a window at somebody who she doesn't know is a police officer, getting shot by said police officer is a brutal culture of policing. That's just a perfect storm of very unfortunate events. Brutal culture of policing? Sorry, this is the first bit of anything police related that I've heard from that area, other than the Amber Geiger nonsense, probably ever. So there's not a brutal culture of policing down there. Jefferson's death sparked outrage in a community that has seen 7 police on civilian shootings since June, yet none of them have made national news. So therefore, none of the details are going to get out. We're just using that number to help back the fact that we're trying to put out there that there's a brutal culture of policing in Dallas Fort Worth. Sorry, that's nonsense. I don't buy that shit for a minute. It says in the Dallas Morning News, Jefferson, 28, took her handgun from her purse and pointed it towards the window before she was shot. The 8-year-old saw his aunt fall to the ground. She was pronounced dead at 3:05. It's very unfortunate. I feel really bad for this kid. I mean, for the family, period, but for an 8-year-old to see this, man, that can fucking 8-year-old get up. Interim Police Chief Ed Krause said at a news conference Tuesday it makes sense that she would have a gun if she felt she was being threatened or there was someone in the backyard. Absolutely. That sentiment was echoed by an attorney for the victim's family. And boy, these attorneys, what pieces of work these assholes are. Lee Merritt said Jefferson had every right to defend herself because the officers did not announce themselves as law enforcement. You have to at least knock on the door. I don't know why these officers didn't do that. To be absolutely honest, his partner who was there with him, he's probably going to catch a lot of shit for this too. One of those guys, between the two of them, should have thought that, hey, maybe we should knock on the door first. I don't know why they didn't do it. You probably avoid this entire situation, a dead 28-year-old girl, by simply knocking on the damn door. Knock on the fucking door, dude. Merritt went on to say it's only appropriate that Ms. Jefferson would have a gun, noting that she had a license to carry the legally owned firearm. When you think there's someone prowling around in the back at 2 a.m. in the morning, you may need to arm yourself. Exactly what I just said. The person could have a gun. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Merritt accused the Dallas-Fort Worth Police Department of providing a defense for Dean by writing that Jefferson had pointed a gun in the window before Dean fired. Well, she did. It was written early in this article that she did. again, I want you to go and watch the footage. He says, drop it. Something like that at the end. He saw something in her hand, which he saw as a threat. It's likely he saw the gun. It says in this very article that she pointed a gun at the window. It's it's not providing a defense, it's fact. Lawyers should want facts, especially facts that might bring legit justice to a case, whether it goes in your direction or not. Obviously, they don't really want that. They want to make this more about how much money can we get from Dallas Fort Worth rather than, oh no, we lost somebody we cared about. The warrant doesn't say Dean told police he saw a weapon, but does say his partner could only see Jefferson's face in the window before Dean opened fire. Dean saw something. Again, he says very clearly at the end, right before he fires the shot, drop it. Go watch the video. I beg you, go watch the video. You'll see what I'm talking about. Dallas Fort Worth Mayor Betsy Price, speaking at a news conference Monday, said the gun was irrelevant, except for the fact that it was pointed in the direction of a fucking police officer. She was in her own home, the mayor said of Jefferson. She was taken from her family in circumstances that are truly unthinkable. I agree that they're unthinkable. I also would say that they're unfortunate. It's an unfortunate series of events. I don't think he went in there thinking he was going to murder somebody. I don't think he went in there thinking he was going to murder this girl. I think you'd be stupid to think that. Krause said previously the department's decision to release a still image of the firearm found in the room where Jefferson was shot without any further information about the weapon or what it had to do with the case wasn't the right call. I kind of agree with that. I don't think you release anything publicly until the investigation is done, personally. I don't give a flying fuck if lawyers are screaming. I don't give a flying fuck what the circumstances are. You can really compromise an investigation by letting out even something as simple as a still photograph of a gun sitting on the ground. So I don't think they should have let that shit out either, but for probably different reasons. Look, bottom line is, I don't think that he murdered this girl in cold blood. As I said, I think it's just a series of unfortunate events. It's just a really tough circumstance. I do really, really feel sorry for this girl's family, especially for that 8-year-old boy. He saw some pretty horrible things that nobody should see, period, let alone at 8 years old. But look, go down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. I'm sure that we're going to end up seeing a lot of shit come from this, like we did the Amber Geiger thing just a few weeks ago when she got convicted and sentenced. I don't particularly think this guy's a murderer. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. Let me know. Catch me on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle down there. And thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later.